Afternoon, everyone. This is Tony from Our Homestead Skills, and today I think I just want to discuss the idea of what do you do if you don't have a pantry, you don't have a lot of space, and how do you create space? How do you store your pantry items? Well, you know, I used to have a home that had, I guess we used to call them cantinas, but I guess it would be a wine cellar or a cold cellar. And it seems as though I grew up living in houses that had cold cellars. And when I purchased my home, it had one as well. And literally what they were the a room in the corner of the basement. And all the homes in Ontario have basements. And there would be a hole cut through the brick to the outside, and this would be sealed from the rest of the basement, so it would stay cooler in the winter. And we do have cold winters here. Now you could block that vent. I guess it was just a big, 4-inch opening, and you could block it if you wanted to, or you can just leave it as is and keep it cool. Now Mark and I used to make sausages, and that was something that we learned from my mother. She used to make them for him, and when she was no longer able to do so, we did it ourselves. But even when she made sausages for us, we would cure them in that cold room. And we'd get a bushel of potatoes or two and just keep them in that cold room and go down and get fresh potatoes whenever we wanted. I had big wooden shelves made for one end of the wall, and there I would store all my jars of tomatoes and whatever else I can. A lot of it was tomatoes, corn, beans, pickles. I didn't do as much canning then as I do now, and it was more than adequate. And then of course I got the canning bug during that phase. Not just doing tomatoes, which is the primary item that we always did every year, but I did end up getting a pressure canner, and I wanted to do all those things that you could do with a pressure canner that you could not water bath. I mean, you could make jams, you could make, there's so many things you could make, just water bath canning. I lived in that home for over 20 years. But anyway, I always had a dedicated pantry. And yes, I could keep a few jars of things upstairs in my kitchen, and my kitchen was sizable. I was able to accommodate everything that I needed. Plenty of upper and lower cabinets, plenty of space for everything. It wasn't a big kitchen, but it also had a full wall unit with extra shelves and drawers and that. We sold that home, I think it was in 2019. For various reasons. So here we move into this apartment, and it's a good size. The apartment is fine. The kitchen is tiny. I have no pantry. And here I am canning up a storm even more than I ever did because, well, I don't have to do a lot of extra chores that I used to do having a home. So how did I survive with no pantry? What did I do? Well, you can always create pantry in small spaces, and I believe I've showed that once in the past, but I have basically 2 hall closets, and I suppose this should be for linens, and I'm lucky to have those 2 closets there. Actually, there are 3, and one is used for your heavy winter coats, I guess, and at the bottom of that I have 2 great big bins full of beans that I vacuum sealed, and rice, like lots of rice and beans. That is my stash for when everything goes bad. And yeah, they're all sealed very, very well. Beyond that, I have a couple of buckets of whole wheat that has not been ground in my bedroom closet. And I also have a whole bunch of milk crates with empty jars or full jars, depending on if I need those for space, but mostly they're holding empty jars at the moment. So I'm going to show you where my main pantry is and how I utilize the space. I'm not going to go into the bedroom closet. Okay, well here you can see the 3 closets I have, and just to the next one over would be my bathroom there. So closet number 1, and is right off my hall space. Second closet, and the third one, and this one, okay, I'll open it up just a bit here. This is where I have 2 large bins, as I said, full of beans and rice, and I've got some of those white plastic buckets that we used to use to mix sausage meat. I wanted to keep those, and of course we've got jackets hung just above that. So definitely a pretty stuffed closet, but here is where my main pantry is, and this one is the first closet. And I had, let's see, I had Mark's help in putting this one together as well. So at the very top, there is a shelf that was built into this closet, and I left it there. Below that, there is steel shelving, and these were 2 small steel shelves that I picked up at IKEA, and that was because they were the right width that would fit into this closet space. Now, the first one was fine. When I went back for the second one, I had to get Mark to cut just a fraction off the posts at the top so that it would fit underneath the wooden shelf, which I did not want to remove, or, I wanted to be able to make use of that as well. So let's see if we have a little bit of a close-up here. As you can see, this is the top, and this is where the wood one is. Now I've got all kinds of dried stuff at the top. I've got my nuts. I did pick up another another batch of pecans. I love pecans. I have got at least 3 dozen here of sweet pickles, and I'm glad I made them when I had the pickles. I grew them in my garden. It was very successful with them that year, and I just kept making them because I didn't have the heart to see them go to waste. It was the best harvest I've ever had. So here I've got jams and all kinds of other things like that. Here I've got a mixture of things, some larger jars at the back, corn, peaches, some pickled products. I've got meat here, my last jar of potatoes, got to make potatoes. I've got salsa. I've got, what else have I got here? All kinds of stuff. Oh, and here's the chili that I just put together. I also have packets of freeze-dried chicken soup, and I've got chicken here. So I canned a whole bunch of chicken, and that's there, and I have a whole bunch of canned salmon that Mark actually picked up. And below that I have canned beans, once again some more dried stuff, my vinegar, and buckets at the very bottom. So I reorganized these shelves probably 3 times before I got the configuration that worked for me. So I wanted to be able to fit the buckets at the bottom, and I can fit 3 perfectly, and even behind that I can put jars of beans, and yeah, there's a hole there because I just took 1 jar out to make the chili. So these buckets hold things like pasta, sugar, salt, you name it, all kinds of things. So that is my main go-to pantry, and it works. Okay, well, many of you have seen this table where I work on quite a bit. Let's turn on the light here. So this is my main table that holds a lot of my appliances. I have this beautiful little meat slicer that we picked up from a kitchen supply place, so it actually works. It's small. It is the smallest one that they had, but it works beautifully. And of course my Mark's deep fryer. I hate deep fryers. Toaster, little mixer, coffee, vacuum sealer, my KitchenAid mixer, and of course other tools. You know, I have paper products, cutting boards, you know, other things that I need here. My blender, my hand mixer. So I think you've seen this table many times because I do a lot of prep work on this table, and this is just a table. Now this is an alcove that is an alcove, I guess just a little space just behind or just in front of my sink and stove. Now I could have put the fridge here, but there is a better spot for the fridge and left this empty. And I could have had them add cabinets in this area, and they should have had cabinets in this little spot, but I wasn't willing to pay for them myself. This is a rental apartment, and if I wanted cabinets here, uppers and lowers, which I could have had, I could have had a proper shelf, uppers and lowers, but I would have had to pay for them myself, and I had other thoughts with what I want to do with my funds, and this is a rental apartment, so I made do. I bought a table that actually fits pretty much from end to end, so it acts like a counter. And now let's get back to what do I do for extra space for my pantry. Well, a lot of you know that I can a lot of tomatoes in the fall. You know, and there are some of us that used to can a whole lot more than what I do, but it's just Mark and I at this point. So I had to find space for my tomato jars, and I have utilized the space underneath this table as well. So I have got 4 milk crates here, and each one of these milk crates can hold 26 pint jars of tomato puree. So that means that those 4 would hold 100 jars of tomato puree. And I usually have more than that here, but I'm literally down to, I don't think I made too much last year. So, and I'm literally down to my last milk crate with 26 jars. But I do have some larger ones packed away elsewhere. And as you can see, that's where my empties got to, just because I got too lazy to properly store them. Because I do have a whole bunch of empties stored in my bedroom closet. And once again, 2 more buckets under here. So utilize all. Now this could have been shelving. You know, your lower cabinet. It could have been your lower cabinet, and it would have worked well, and all this would have been hidden. Unfortunately, as I said, it's open, and I've never shown this space. You know, I tried not to, but I don't see any harm in showing it here. And that is, there are times I've had 8 or more of these full under this table, and they usually go right across the back. So the 4 here, and I've had 4 at the other end, and sometimes right across the back, full of pantry products that I've made. So you can always find space if you choose to. Now I also have this cabinet here, and the lighting isn't very good to show you. Okay, this cabinet also has some overflow jars of all kinds of things, some freeze-dried. I think we're just going to have a thunderstorm here. I think I just heard that. It looks like it's getting dark. Anyway, I have some freeze-dried items here. I have more empty jars at the bottom. I have other things that I just could not fit into the other cabinet, my main pantry. So everywhere that I could find, nook and cranny, is where I put things. Now beyond that is my china. This is my china here, my china there, which, you know, this is my good china that I've got housed there, and there's more of it at back there. Royal Albert china in the back. So I make space, I make do with the space I have and take advantage of it. And here I've got the extracts that I made, homemade extracts. So I keep them in that box. Okay, so that is my crazy all over the house pantry. Definitely a monsoon. See, it was extremely hot here, and that's why this, I mean, it happens here just like it does in the south. You get the extreme hot, and then you get this crazy, crazy, huge amount of water. Just showing you that yes, you can build a pantry anywhere if you want. It's just a matter of being creative. You can always find a way to stash all your pantry goods. Anyway, this is Tony from our Homestead Skills. Hope you enjoyed that little tour of my scattered pantry. Bye for now.